Welcome back, Red Spotters, another show here in the Red Spotlight Entertainment Podcast. I'm your host, Alexis J. Soto, and I'm joined by Mr. Peter Martinez. Peter, how are you doing this week?
Good.
Really? Because it seems like it was kind of the worst week yet.
I was lying.
Yeah.
Drag it out of me, you bitch.
We are now in week 17 of this pandemic, with social distancing and some of us being in self-quarantine lockdown. So yeah, we're going to get into a lot of COVID stuff to kind of update our audience and like what we've been doing. Again, usually we'll talk about what we've seen this week. But a lot of COVID, especially in the first hour, with our major story of movie theaters being pushed back even further for openings, certain films like Tenet and Mulan pushing back their release dates 2 weeks back, and then AMC also making the announcement that they'll open in late July now, so because of COVID-related reasons, which we'll get into. And then, in the latter half of our show, Peter and I have a review of the documentary feature film Bernie Blackout, The Revolution Will Not Be Televised, which is part of a Vice News presentation. You can watch that through your cable subscription on Vice, or you can purchase it on Amazon or Vudu of that sort. All that and much more on Red Spotlight number 244. By the way, I think you made me laugh so hard my cheekbones are hurting right now. Like, they're literally numb. I haven't laughed that just thinking about fucking Sacha Baron Cohen and the mosque. Oh my god. Oh god, I needed that.
When they showed the two designs and then the bigger mosque. And they're like, oh, you hate it? Okay, we'll go with design one.
Oh my god.
By the way, did you see what I sent? Look at it real quick.
Just now?
Yeah.
I'm looking at it right now. Give me a sec. Oh, fuck. She was fearless and crazier than him. She was his queen, and God help anyone who... Okay. All right. So, before we get into all the COVID nonsense, because quite frankly, it has been, I think, maybe the worst week yet. In general, but before that, we should probably do a recap of what media we've consumed this week. Peter, have you got for us some stuff you've been watching?
I've seen nothing.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I've worked every day since... this past week. I worked today. Worked the past 5 days. So I just haven't had time this week.
Yeah, I'm kind of in a similar situation. I've been in, I don't know, it was a weird week. Because of the pandemic, I've basically been unemployed. So I don't have the same situation as you do, but I haven't been in the mood to watch a movie. I don't know what it is. I mean, I did rewatch the documentary movie we're going to be talking about later in this episode, which I don't know why, because it only made me feel like crap afterward.
That's your favorite type of film to watch.
It seems that way anyway. I'm just glutton for punishment. But no, I've kind of been whatever. I've mainly been listening to podcasts, watching some YouTube content of a certain variety. Nothing besides that, and yeah, really, yeah, it's been kind of a pretty slow week in terms of, I guess, media consumption, editing podcasts, the ones that we do here for Red Spotlight, I guess, planning future shows. This might be a good time to talk about that because Fantasy Fair Peter's personal favorite podcast in our network is coming back. I was talking with Kyle Lira and with Alexis Moreno over the weekend, and we pretty quickly got a schedule down. At least for the next 3 weeks, we know that we're going to be talking about the recent news with Splash Mountain being rethemed to The Princess and the Frog. The Hamilton movie is dropping on Disney Plus, so that'll give us some more content. And we're also going to be doing the audio commentary for Princess and the Frog, which I believe you're also going to be a part of, Peter. So, yeah,
is this a cordial invitation?
It is, and I think this might even please you. There may be the possibility, Peter, of you getting your own episode on Fantasy Fair, based on your tier list that you've come up for Disney.
Why? Did you guys finally get around to actually looking at it?
Oh no, we just need content. So,
you're trying to whore me out for content?
I mean, yeah, sure. So that's Fantasy Fair, coming back on a weekly basis. We've concluded to the table. We had a 3-week run for the Tron month with, the original film, Tron Legacy, and Tron Uprising, the animated series on Disney XD. All those episodes, I think we have Tron Uprising dropping this coming Friday. And that will be it. To the Table will be going on a hiatus until we decide the next batch of films to watch and the next themes of course, and leave it in the hands of Peter, who is the showrunner for To the Table. But I do encourage you to listen to those episodes. I actually was very interesting. There was a wide range of reactions to the different iterations of Tron, as we discussed there. And of course, we just wrapped up our movies that impressed us while we were, I guess, little kids series. And everyone seemed to enjoy that. That was Peter's idea, so giving credit where credit is due. So yeah, I've mainly been trying to focus on what the schedule is going to look like for the next few weeks, not only in terms of recordings, but also in terms of releases. So yeah. And I also do want to mention before we move on that Alexis Moreno was scheduled to be with us today, but she is not feeling well right now. And I would ask if you listen to keep her in your mind. The pandemic has taken its toll, and on all of us, to be fair, but it gutted me, and I'm sure I'm not even involved in what happened. So, but she'll return and she'll be back. But it's not happy time right now with the pandemic. How are you doing, by the way? With the pandemic going on, with you and your family, personal shitty struggles going on.
I mean, it's pretty fucking lame.
Yeah,
I'd have to say, from my point of view. Having now tried out a pandemic, not into it.
No,
not my thing.
It's been oh my god. Yeah, I feel like, my mom has been very cautious with this whole thing, and she's taking it seriously every step of the way. But every week, I feel like a little bit of her dies not being able to work, because that was kind of her life. And I think she's beyond the point of just being sad. She's just getting angry every fucking day at people here for being the cause of this pandemic lasting longer and longer and longer. That, I guess, brings us all the way back around to this COVID-19 discussion, because when we first started doing these COVID recaps 17 weeks ago at the beginning of this, I asked you and I asked Alexis, and we all talked about not just in specifically with theaters, but in general, when we suspected that there would be some kind of a return to normalcy. Now, mind you, this was at the beginning. We've all, as the weeks have gone on, we've all revised our expectations. But at the very beginning, we were looking seriously at late July, early August as the time for which things could start to open back up. We're now, in the recording of this podcast, it is the 29th of June. At this point, I would be very surprised if January 1st, 2021 comes and we have returned to our lives. Peter?
We're at the worst it's ever been. 4 months in. So it just seems like everything leading up this entire time in quarantine meant literally nothing. You know, you kept thinking like, oh, just, you know, stay inside. It'll get better. It'll get better. It'll get better. Do your part. It'll get better. And it's the worst it's ever been. Because people are fucking stupid. Our leaders are stupid. People that, I just want to, you know, go to a bar, have fun. I just want to do this. I just want to do that. I want to go to a family gathering. I want to do that. And now we're here. And it the longer and longer this pandemic goes on, the deeper consequences it has. And, you know, your answer being to that, like, well, you know, we can't stay locked down forever, so we just open up. I agree, we can't stay locked down forever. So shut the fuck up and stay in your house. Because this, if we had actually taken this seriously from the very beginning, we would be out of this by now. Every other country has had their numbers drastically drop. Drastically. Well, we're getting like 30,000 new cases a day in this country.
40,000 in some days.
We are easily the worst in the entire world. It's not even a competition. USA #1. Always.
I mean, I'm going to read off a couple of things that have happened in the last few days that just come to mind. All of which I feel are for the good of the current situation, but in my view, come way too late. So we've had a bunch of different counties and states, including here in California, where we broadcast from, and some states like Kansas, that made the wearing of masks mandatory. That falls into the category of things that should have happened on day one.
The entire country should have been shut the fuck down. Day one. Day one. Everything should have shut down. Masks should have immediately been required. We should have instituted financial support to everyone in the country and incentivize them not to go out to work, except for only those that truly had to. It should have been an immediate and highly enforced shutdown, but it wasn't, because you needed freedom to not wear a mask. Oh God. I hate these people so much. So much. You see them in the videos. Actually, I have a breathing issue, so I can't wear a mask inside the thing.
Or how could you interfere?
And if you don't, I'm going to sue you. And like, oh my God.
How can you interfere with God's beautiful breathing system?
Like, I know this sounds pretty far, but I don't even know if I view them as humans anymore. Like, 120 odd some thousand people are dead. A lot of people have been financially ruined. A lot of businesses have been financially ruined. I think I read somewhere that suicides have actually increased 200% since the beginning of lockdown. Like, if you bitch and moan about having to wear a mask, or just having to not go out to a bar, or not go to family parties, and just having to sit your ass home and saying, fuck you, I don't wanna, my freedom, you are actively murdering people. And you are destroying this country.
As always, I have the update here by Ryan Struck, a reporter from CNN. CNN reports as of 4:08 p.m. today, 126,000 people in the United States have died from coronavirus. And to further illustrate what has happened in the last week, every single day there are increases between 30 to 40,000 overall in the United States of COVID-19. Spikes generally in Florida, Texas, Arizona, and in California. Beyond what people are so scared. Certain individuals are so scared that Republican governor from Texas, Greg Abbott, not only has he taken a few steps back and closed the bars, but he even went on the record to publicly say that if only I had known things would be this bad by us reopening too soon. To which
oh God, these stupid motherfuckers, they knew. People told them and they just chose to say, fuck you, I don't care. Same thing with Florida. Oh my God, fuck the Florida governor. Holy shit. Is he such a piece of shit?
Yeah, I mean, and even in other places, like, generally, I think Governor Newsom here in California has done the best job in the country, but still, it seemed even they didn't expect the minute you reopen certain locations, this kind of spike in COVID-19.
Shocked Pikachu face.
I know.
Like, we opened up bars? You mean that one place where people crowd into a tiny room and they all share glasses and drink and touch each other and touch stools and touch bars? You're shocked that this place, helped spread the coronavirus at such alarming levels? Why'd you open the fucking bars? That's one of the last places that no one needs alcohol. No one needs it.
By the way, since you mentioned that, and since Governor Abbott in Texas has announced the closure of bars, all the bar owners announced they're going to go back out there and protest the lockdown.
Okay. Sure. So, all these business owners, instead of being stupid, dumb motherfuckers that you are, and crying about opening up the government, or not opening up the government, opening up the country, as if that's going to save your bar, because it isn't. Because most people aren't going to want to go, and those that do won't be alive that long, so you're going to lose your customer retention rate.
Your clientele, basically.
Yeah. What you could do is band together and demand from your president financial help for your industries.
What a novel idea.
Yeah. That way, your business can survive and people won't die and the pandemic will be over faster, so you'll be able to reopen up again.
But Peter,
Isn't that
that's
crazy?
socialism. We can't be a socialist country.
Freedom. Freedom means doing something stupid and then not having a response to doing that stupid thing. So you just say freedom. I want to do that from now on. Anything stupid I do, it's freedom. I have the right to do it. Why would you want me to tell me not, to stab myself in the leg? That's my freedom. It's my right. Don't you infringe on it. Why do you hate this country? Why do you hate the flag? Why do you hate America? And then, me and all my buddies, we will stab ourselves in the knee to really show those dumb liberals that they can't take our freedom.
I mean,
I think that's what we're
this is how bad, just so listeners understand why Peter and I hate conservatives so much, and in particular the Trump cultist conservatives, because they're not even ideologically driven. They're just morons.
They're just a death cult.
But they're also just, they go out of their way to be offensive. So I read today that Alex Jones led an anti-lockdown rally in Texas titled "We Can't Breathe" because of the masks, which is a disgusting play on "I Can't Breathe," which George Floyd was saying when he was being murdered.
Doctors, since the beginning of this pandemic, and nurses have been wearing those stuffy N95 masks, big, bulky, hug your face.
Did you hear what I said?
You're back? Nice to have you back.
Did you hear the end of what I said?
No. I probably did, because it cut off when I was talking.
I'm sorry. So then okay. So
that's what usually happens.
Okay, well then that's bad. What I was saying is, it's just so they go out of their way to be over offensive when you see that Alex Jones leads an anti-lockdown rally in Texas, with a disgusting play on "I Can't Breathe," which was what George Floyd said when he was being murdered by police officers, and calling the rally "We Can't Breathe" because apparently they can't breathe when they're wearing a mask. And they've co-opted something from the Black Lives Matter movement to them and their cause for why masks are intrusive. Can we just be real? They're being whiny bitches. Really, you're complaining about wearing a mask. You're complaining about wearing a fucking mask. Really?
They're being liars. Doctors and nurses since the beginning of this pandemic have been wearing those big, bulky N95 masks that hug against their face so hard that they leave massive marks by the end of their, 12-hour shifts. And
the ones that, by the way, survived COVID-19, I should say.
Mm-hmm. And guess what? They can breathe the entire time. Nurses and doctors have literally come out and made official videos and shown, look, this is my O2 levels before putting on the mask, and this is my O2 levels with the mask on. My breathing is not affected by wearing the mask. This idea that it's harder for you to breathe while wearing a mask is a lie.
Yeah.
It's just a bold face. We can't breathe. That whole thing is a lie. And it's a lie they've been perpetuating from the beginning of this because they need an excuse to just not wear it. Because they are so unbelievably privileged as a group of people. The mere idea of them not being able to get a haircut when they want, and the idea of them being forced to simply wear a mask is a bigger deal and a bigger injustice than Black people being murdered in the streets by police, by peaceful protesters being shot at in the face with massive rubber bullets, or going blind,
or being run over by police cars,
or being run over. So, fuck these people from the bottom of my heart.
With all of that being said, which I endorse, of course, Peter, because
my candidacy.
Well, maybe not yet. Just so the point is clear, we are passing judgment on those people which Peter just attacked. And we're saying...
Attacked.
Well, I mean...
You might want to add a brutally attacked in there.
Yeah, sure. Eviscerated, I think maybe is a better word for it.
Eviscerated?
Yeah. They can go fuck themselves. Basically, because they're putting everybody and the rest of us in danger, and they are prolonging this pandemic. So that's the truth. But in regards to the movie making business, which we cover here, and movie theaters. So in the last week, Tenet and Mulan pushed back their release dates from late July to early August to mid-August. And I was laughing so hard along with everybody else on Twitter because, I mean, maybe some of them weren't even laughing. They were just pissed off. Like, do you think 2 weeks is going to make that much of a difference with that? So again, I should also mention that Arizona closed all of its movie theaters. New York State completely removed movie theaters from their stages. It was on stage 4, now it's not even at that, and they're currently in stage 2. In California, I think Los Angeles today closed back all of the theaters that were even open in the first place. AMC Theaters also announced today that, they're not opening up until July 31st, because they had publicly stated a few weeks back that the 15th of July would be when they would be back up and running. That no longer is the case, and now they are saying July 31st. It seems as if in the last week, reality has kind of caved in on these people. Because you and I have been saying every step of the way, I don't see it happening. It's not going to happen. Even in certain weeks when everybody was getting on this like reopening bandwagon, which if it wasn't already stated, the reopening bandwagon has contributed to the worsening of COVID-19. We're not even in the second wave yet. That's coming in October and November, you assholes. Just to be clear about that. And you made it worse. All of you made it worse by going out there. That's the reality. You worsened your own economic prospects by putting everyone else's lives at danger. Good for doing that then. But to be clear about all of this, this isn't happening. Stop it. 2020 isn't happening. And you know what? Just to waste everyone's time even further, I have a wonderful list here provided to me by Dan Merle on his show about all of the movies that currently have release dates for the rest of 2020. Now, every release date that I'm about to read off isn't going to happen. So let me waste my time here. As the movie theaters, I don't want to waste your time by reading off this wonderful list here by the current release date schedule. July 31st, Russell Crowe's Unhinged. August 12th is Tenet. And then August 21st, Mulan. August 28th, both The New Mutants and Bill and Ted Face the Music. September 1st, A Quiet Place Part 2. September 11th, The Conjuring 3. September 18th, The King's Man. September 25th, Candyman. October 2nd, Wonder Woman 1984. October 9th, Death of the Nile. October 16th, Halloween Kills. November 6th, Black Widow. November 20th, No Time to Die and Pixar's Soul. December 11th, Free Guy. December 18th, Dune and West Side Story and Coming to America 2. And the 23rd of December, The Croods 2 and Top Gun Maverick. Everyone listening, kiss those movies goodbye in a theater. Some of those may drop on VOD. Maybe a lot of them may. But kiss them goodbye. It's not happening. And in 2 weeks, or maybe even this week, they'll say Tenet gets pushed another 2 weeks back, and then we're going to keep
They're going to be playing the 2 weeks game for months. For months. It's not maybe for a very long time. You're gonna keep hearing headlines. Tenet pushed back a week. Mulan pushed back a month. Tenet pushed back 3 more weeks. This shit started in China. Chinese theaters are not even open yet. Why in the fuck do you think American theaters will be by the end of this year when we're worse than China ever was, or any other place in the whole world was and currently is? I was watching a video about our favorite person in the entire world, Ms. Grace Randolph. And she said something with which I agreed, which is a lot of these studios need to just, or maybe she was talking to the audience, just have to deal with the fact some of these movies just, you can't just keep pushing them back. They need to get a VOD release.
Like SpongeBob, which was announced a few weeks back.
But maybe even some other movies that, like she threw out Mulan. It's got to get a VOD release. And I don't know if I agree. Well, again, it all depends on the money.
Let me tell you this.
You also have to deal with the fact, these studios need to deal with the fact they're going to lose money on some of these movies.
Well, they're losing money right now.
You're already losing money. You just got to release some of these.
Let me tell you,
get back whatever money you can.
Right. Well, with Mulan, I'll tell you, I disagree. Because, you wouldn't make, ideally, you would make more money in a theater, but the theater movie business may be so tarnished at this point, and the company isn't making any money at all. It may just be easier at this point to just get it over with and drop Mulan on VOD. Because even if we're looking at early 2021 and movie theaters are back, you can't predict, and I can't predict, when movie going will be a regular thing among people anymore. Because I don't know, there's a depression coming. There's an economic collapse coming.
Pushed Hamilton forward a whole 2 fucking years. That shit was supposed to drop in 2022.
Yeah.
And they paid good money just to
$75 million.
Just to have something, anything, to be able to drop. They don't got... Hamilton was a magic black card they had in their back pocket. They don't have many of those left. I don't think they have any of those left. At some point, you can't just sit on these films forever and then release nothing. Some of these films are gonna have to just go straight to video on demand. And
here's what's even worse about that.
That's the reality.
I agree with you. Some of these are gonna have to go. Maybe we can speculate a little bit as to which one of these could go on VOD. West Side Story. Fuck it at this point. No one cares with Ansel Elgort involved.
It's tough. Well, with a lot of these,
they're tough because they would have been successful in the theater. Yes,
with big egos, it's tough to get them to say
you have Denis Villeneuve, Steven Spielberg, you have Pete Docter, you have what's his name, Cary Fukunaga, you have Kenneth Branagh, you have Patty Jenkins, you have Matthew Vaughn, John Krasinski. And of course, you have Christopher Nolan in some of these big movies. And again, a lot of these movies, contractually speaking, are for the theater. I want to also add a little bit of nuance to what you were saying, Peter, because we are aware of, and we mentioned it a few weeks back, that Jurassic World Dominion had resumed filming. The direction that California now is that we're going to end up going back on complete lockdown. It seems that it's pointing slowly at that direction. And there's a real possibility that the productions that resumed filming could once again be shut down. And if that's the case, what happens to new content? There's no new content then.
Yeah. New shit won't be filmed and made to be distributed. Right now, there's some shows, some movies that were ready to go in the next few months that can be dropped and can be released currently, but eventually you're gonna run out of that shit too, and then we might just be in a certain period where just an unbelievable dry spell where just nothing is released because nothing can be shot and filmed. It sucks. It really does. But we're almost there, if not already there. And then once you're at that point, they're just gonna have to drop some films. They're gonna have to, even if they didn't want to.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just looking at what we have here, and the only one that I know for sure they're not going to do it because he'll never let it happen.
Tenet.
Yeah. I don't expect that being a VOD release. I just don't. Like, Nolan wouldn't allow that. And for whatever reason, WB has let themselves be pushed around by Nolan when it comes to distributing a film, which...
Tenet fucking owns WB. I mean, not
Nolan.
Tenet, Christopher Nolan.
Yeah, so they want to keep him happy. Yeah, it's getting... And then Randolph also said something else in her videos lately that she just needs to tell, not just like that movies are going to have to start dropping, but audiences have to start realistically think that they're not going to open up anytime soon, at least not till next year.
You're not going to a theater anytime. I'm telling you, months ago when this thing started, I didn't think I was going to see a movie in theaters for the rest of the year.
I was hoping for October, November.
It's not going to happen.
No.
And then at what point in 2021? Fuck if I know. Maybe not even 2021 either. It might be years till you go to a movie theater. I mean, let's be real. My hope, this is my genuine hope. We don't know what it'll be like in November. I mean, it took us 4 months, and we literally went backwards in those 4 months. All this time in quarantine, and it's worse than ever. So where it'll be in November, I don't know, but I'm not going to pretend as if like, oh yeah, if you just give it time, it'll get better. But with a new administration, a new president that isn't just baby fucking Hitler,
which, mind you, won't be in place until late January 2021 for people, just to be clear about that.
Of course. It honestly feels like maybe not even until then can anything seriously turn around. And by then it might be too late. Right now it might be too late.
It's been frustrating, to say the least. I'm not gonna lie. This last week especially has been, not that I've been in denial the last few months. I knew that I wasn't gonna like be in a movie theater, but it's looking so bad to the point where I don't think anything's coming back, and people are just continuously deluding themselves. I'm an avid viewer of Breakfast All Day, and Alonzo Duralde of The Wrap said in the recent podcast that, you know, it's hitting me this week that none of this is going to be over anytime soon.
Yeah. At the beginning of this thing, I think a lot of people felt like, hey, keep your heads down, stay inside. Might be a few months, but we'll get through this. No.
I mean, still stay inside. Still, don't go outside at this point. Stay safe,
but
stay inside, yeah.
There is no light at the end of the tunnel at this point.
No.
Not a real tangible one. I mean, obviously, in your mind, like, yeah, eventually shit will change just because there's only so many people on this earth. Even if at worst everyone fucking gets it, eventually that would happen as well. But it's not anytime soon.
what do you think? Is there any way to predict what the catastrophic toll this will have on the film industry in the long run?
No, not currently, because we still don't know. We don't know when they're going to open up. Maybe if you told me, like, in exactly 6 months they'll open up, maybe I can give you a timeline of, like, well, okay, maybe this is how they'll be affected.
Well, I think that's maybe realistic. Let's say, well, no, wait, not 6. Let's say 8 months, maybe. But then lies in the other question. For industries like AMC, will they even be around to open up by the time this is over? You see, that's the kind of questions that we're going to get into now.
Once people are actually going to be able safely to go out and do things, they will go out and do things. Just the mere idea of going to a restaurant, people will flood them.
Which, by the way, to give people another indication, that was some states were allowing that, and now they're quickly
because it was stupid.
Yeah, and now they're quickly going back on that and reversing it.
Oh God. Okay, I can't. I don't want to go down that road again. That I think AMC Theaters, even if it does go under, some other company will gobble it up. Movie theaters won't go away.
Yeah. I think it's obvious, though, that it will take quite some time for that industry to recover. Because even when there's a cure, there's still going to be a period of time where people will need to get over the fear. And the thing is this, as the head of the World Health Organization said just today, the worst is yet to come. We're at a point where we can't even have any idea of how bad that worse is going to look like.
I'm just so tired of hearing that, though.
Well, I am too. I mean, not happy to hear, but it's the truth, though.
My thing is, at the start of this, it's like, oh, the worst is yet to come. Okay, it gets infinitely worse. We're just at the beginning of this. The worst is yet to come. Okay, so much more time passes. Shit gets so much worse. We're just at the beginning of this. The worst is yet to come. It is so fucking draining.
Yes, it is.
You can't even go hey, we're halfway there. Nope. It's like the fucking, I forgot the name, but that Greek myth of that guy that's cursed to roll
Sisyphus?
I don't fucking know. Roll the boulder up a hill, and every time he's almost, halfway there, it rolls back to the bottom, and he has to go back to the bottom and try and roll it back up, and it's that for all eternity. I feel for him. I feel like him right now, because that's exactly what this whole COVID situation is. You're rolling a hill up. You're rolling a ball up a hill, and then halfway through it rolls all the way back down. And you start over.
Let me ask you this, Peter. Mm-hmm. Is there a silver lining to this pandemic? Is there any good news?
Oh, I was going to say, the one silver lining there would be, but isn't, because we used to be one of the few communities left in this country that had a drive-in theater. One of the very few. And now, and then it closed years ago. And I was so sad because I loved that place. I would kill for a drive-in right now. I'd kill for one. Maybe that would be an upside if people were like, hey, movie theaters aren't coming around for a long, long time. Maybe let's invest in a couple drive-ins.
That's just the thing. In a world where executives weren't dumb, you'd think that there'd be some kind of a concentrated effort to get whatever are left, whatever I don't even know if there are even enough drive-in theaters left that would even make it like financially.
But we have one.
Yeah, we have one,
just
right?
sitting there. It's been sitting there for years. Just someone with money, like just some billionaire that throws away the amount of money it would take to fix her up and get her going away on a weekend, like it's chump change, regularly. Just do that, but fix up this, just fix her up and just show old movies. You don't even have to show new ones.
Yeah.
I will literally watch anything at a drive-in. Right
yeah.
now. And I don't know the exact numbers, but I'd have to imagine drive-in are unbelievably safe. Like,
that's the ultimate social distance. You're in your own car, you're in your own space, you're not close to anybody, and more importantly, you are not in a dark, air-conditioned, recycled air room where anyone's cough is going to be thrown back in your face by the air. And guess what? For those of you that hate masks, no masks in your car.
Mm-hmm. Like, you're able to go out. Imagine that.
I know.
You can go out and enjoy the night. Watch a movie. Even though you're separated, you are around people. But they're in an aluminum dome called a car where you're all safe away from each other. But just the fact that there are other cars around you and there are people can really alleviate that loneliness that comes from not being able to gather around other people. You would be able to alleviate it somewhat, Like I oh my god, if the drive-in here was open, I'd be at that shit every night. And what's great is they'd be playing a lot of classic movies.
Yeah.
Like, how awesome would it be? Like, oh, fucking Thursday night, let's go check out Indiana Jones.
Oh my god.
At the drive-in. Let's watch Alien at the drive-in. Let's watch Empire Strikes Back at the drive-in.
This may be a dumb question. Was there ever any kind of circumstantial evidence for why drive-ins went away?
You got the movie theaters with their super, super clear screens, surround sound, air conditioned, cushioned seats. It's
so the plussing of movie theater experience, basically.
Yeah. IMAX screens, 3D, the whole shebang.
Yeah. And when the world needed them most, they vanish.
They vanish. I never was felt that way. I was always 100% in on drive-ins. And what was so great,
I would miss driving by that drive-in and watching whatever movie was playing.
I was about to say that. I loved, because our drive-in was right by the road.
Mm-hmm.
So where there's always traffic, so we'd drive by, and I would always look out the window, and you could see whatever movie was playing there.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I just loved seeing that. I loved that it was there, every night. You drive by and you could see the movie. God damn it.
I know. Well, I was going to ask you, I was kind of getting at something else about a silver lining to this pandemic. And that would be the defeat of Donald Trump.
Yeah. I think he could have lost without a pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I guess this leaves no shadow of a doubt if you needed that. I'd rather have stressed out about him possibly winning the second term while not, having the world thrown into ruins. I rather would have had that. But I guess if you're, you gotta have a silver lining. there's no chance he wins re-election. I'm throwing down my prediction. It's just, and it's not as if that's like a risk to say that. Even Trump himself has basically said that he's probably gonna lose.
That's how bad the polls are. On average, he's down 10 points in every poll, every state.
I'm gonna be surprised at looking if he wins any swing state. Maybe Ohio, because fucking Ohio has lost it.
It's tied.
But like, imagine if Trump loses Florida.
There was a poll that came out that had him down 9 points to Biden in Florida.
Florida.
Fucking Florida.
Florida is filled with old white retirees, Cubans who are, lean pretty conservative.
Economically and socially.
And, like, I don't want to offend, I guess, any Floridians here, but fucking crazy people. There's a reason why Florida Man is a meme. Because of all the headlines of Florida Man, shoves bath salts up his ass and attacks an alligator. Like, that's the kind of fucking headlines you get out of Florida. If Trump can't win Florida, I don't know what to tell you. He can't win shit.
And also, when things are getting bad when Florida decides to close their beaches for the 4th of July.
Yeah, for the 4th of July. And these were the same fuckers who at the very beginning of the pandemic were like, no, our beaches are open. No. When California was just in complete shutdown lockdown mode, and then Florida's just like, no. Like, I remember, like, just being here in the first few weeks of the pandemic, and then looking at photos of the Florida beach, and just fucking the piers with people packed to the fucking bone. And it's like, why would you go to the beach? Why would you want to go to the beach? Why? I don't. It's really hard for me to understand the thinking of other people when it comes to this.
Well, it seems as if some local governments have caught up with the fact that some people are hopeless, and now they're taking even further action by California closing
Trump is president.
Yeah.
You should know a giant portion of this country is hopeless.
I know. But California now also saying they're going to close every beach. Mayor Garcetti in Los Angeles also saying that they're canceling all fireworks, no fireworks. Wish we had that here. We should also mention our own county.
Oh my God.
Our own county was ordered to go back to strongly recommend to go back into shutdown.
Strongly recommended.
And with a threat in the message saying that if you didn't do that, the governor would do it for you. And the council or the board of supervisors here in the county have been very wishy-washy since then, and not. And yeah.
Oh my God.
So
I love the place that I grew up in and I live in, but Jesus fucking close everything down. And no, it really pisses me off because where we live, they did not nearly do enough in the beginning when all this shit was going down. Even when they would like technically close places, it wasn't getting enforced. It wasn't.
Not only was it not getting enforced, they also prematurely opened public places like parks way too early.
Yeah. And oh God, I don't want to name any direct.
Well, we're not going to name anything, but what I will say is that everyone that I know has been hearing the same rumors, and they're true based on what I have seen from what I have been told. Now, again, not naming any names, but I will just say that just about every single, if not the majority, of the small businesses some of them which may or may not belong to larger franchises, but have been very flippant with procedure and with reporting, and in many cases not reporting which employees, if any employees, have symptoms or have been tested or have tested positive for COVID-19.
It's very much like, oh, you tested positive? Well, you feel better now, right? Go ahead, come in. And we're not gonna report this. We're not gonna tell the other people that work here because, I guess we don't feel they have a right to know. And we're not gonna tell our customers or clientele. It's just like, oh, I'm sure you're better.
I have sources inside a local news outlet confirming all of these stories, and they've all been hearing the same thing. I also have a source with some of these businesses that they themselves as employees have kind of been terrorized and pressured to not take COVID tests out of fear of being closed down permanently.
And again, all these businesses, it's like trying to fight a tidal wave for them to go like, no, just ignore the pandemic. We need to open up because then we'll lose our business. You cannot fight the pandemic this way. You can't ignore it till it's gone. The only real way you should be fighting back in this instance is taking, arming band, hand in hand. Don't touch literally, 6 feet apart.
Yeah.
But hand in hand with other business owners. And demanding financial help throughout this entire pandemic.
I also want to make clear, for those listeners unaware of where we live, our county made national news last week. The CDC is officially here. They rolled up on our neighborhood because they were like, what is going on with you guys?
What is going on? You guys are easily the worst in the entire state.
Maybe the whole country.
What the fuck? Per capita, maybe, yeah.
The governor also specifically, we're the only ones that have been told officially to take a step back. Stop reopening, even whatever phase you're in. Go back to shelter in place.
I mean, it wasn't a threat, but it was a threat.
Yeah. It was pretty serious.
It was like, I'm going to leave it to you guys, but you're going to choose correctly. Like, it was very much one of those.
If you don't, then I'll make the choice for you, is what he said basically in his statement.
Yeah.
And what's interesting is the day that letter came back, and mind you, this comes after weeks of this county sending letters to the governor asking for this county to be separate from the rest of the state's timetable and start reopening faster. And then this is what their response was. And might I add, there were many people that I know, including my own mom, that were looking at that. They were looking at the live stream of the council meeting. Mm-hmm. They had like a swearing in, a pledge of allegiance, and they turned the cameras off.
After that?
Yeah, after that. The live stream was down. And I even have it on authority that, let's just say, some high-ranking people in this community who I hate and who my disgust knows no bounds, I'll just say it's connected to the law enforcement. I think you'll know this, Peter.
Okay.
This person also just put up a random Facebook post this week asking, what the hell was up with that? What were they even saying? What did they say? What was the decision that was made? Because no one knows. And days have gone by, and it was left up in the air, which should tell you that conversation must have not gone well.
I'm trying to wrap my head around this. They had the gall to demand that they not be on the same timetable as the...
I'm here. Go ahead.
Every time I'm talking, you bitch.
Go ahead.
They had the gall that they should not be on the same... that our community should not be on the same timetable as the rest of the state.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're having some connection issues right now. I do apologize.
You are having some connection issues. The
call is continuously crashing. And it seemed that it have crashed again. Hello? I'm back, Peter. Are you there?
I don't see you.
You don't see me?
I don't see you.
That's not a good thing because my camera is on.
Oh, there you are.
I'm not doing this on purpose. We're just having connection issues. That's sad. So you were saying they had the gall, and then it keeps getting off from there.
That they had the gall to request a separate timetable for the rest of the state, and then go on to have handled this situation infinitely worse than the rest of the state, maybe the country. That's some balls. I'll tell you that.
I don't think it's balls. I think it's just complete incompetence because a lot of these elected officials, like the mayors of 2 local towns here in the county, have gone on record to the San Diego Tribune with comments that I think are quite illuminating to their mentality, where they kind of express that they're far more concerned with the pressure that is being placed on them by local businesses to reopen than the concern of the public health of the community. So they're being clearly pressured from a political standpoint on that regard. And a lot of the mayors here, I mean, I don't think I'm being unfair. They've gone on record. They've had comments. They say these exact same things. They come off as the mayor from Jaws.
You don't understand. We need to reopen the economy. Who cares about a shark attack here or there? By the way, in our community, COVID has killed many more people than that shark ever killed in that movie.
Yeah. We're nearing 100 deaths.
And for as small as a community we have, that's a really big deal.
No, yeah. I mean, I don't know what our population can't be, what, more than 200,000?
Maybe.
I don't know what the exact figures are. We're a small community. We really are. But we have over 6,000 cases. That's a lot of people for a small community. 6,000 confirmed cases. Active cases is a different story, but it's still over 1,000.
But I think they say for every person tested here, 23% come back positive. And I think for the rest of the state, it's 8%.
Yes, that's the goal, is to be at 8%, but they're nowhere near that.
Yeah.
And by the way,
it genuinely, I want to make this very clear. It genuinely breaks my heart seeing small businesses suffer. Mm-hmm. I really like small businesses. I really want them to succeed. I hate the fact that, you try and do everything right. You balance your budget. You work really, really hard. You put all your money into a business, and then just pandemic hits. Completely unfair, to you and what you were trying to build. I sympathize greatly. I really do with a lot of these businesses, because a lot of them just aren't going to make it.
No, they're not going to make it. And of course, our empathy is extended to them because we have compassion and we care about people and their livelihoods. That's important. But I also have to say, and not in a way or in a tone that is coming across as justifying that. I'm just pointing it out. That's what happens with our system that we have here in government, with no social safety nets.
That's what I mean. you should, when I say you shouldn't be trying to fight the pandemic, you should be fighting the government that allows so many people to just financially fall apart and fall to the wayside because of the pandemic. It's not right. I agree it's not right that these businesses are financially hurting at this time. If we had actually delivered a really good financial pandemic package like we should have done from the beginning, I think more people would have been encouraged to just stay inside, not try and rock the boat,
right,
and sit it out.
Let me tell you something, and I'm not talking to you, I'm talking to just listeners. Again, deepest sympathies for people who are losing their livelihoods. It's horrific what's about to transpire for many people right now, losing all of what they know. But again, to reiterate the point, they shouldn't be mad at the pandemic. They need to be mad at their own government for when the emergency first happened and they had that big stimulus package. They should be angered at the fact that 80% of that money went to corporations like AT&T or Amazon or Disney. They got the bulk of that money. That's who your government is really interested in. And it doesn't matter whether or not the small businesses stay open or not. They don't care about you. That's who you should be angry at. Donald Trump, Mitch McConnell. Might I also add Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer for not fighting hard enough to make you a priority. Also, and we'll discuss this on Vanity Fair, but Disneyland even pushed their opening date. They wanted, because I had a source from the Diz say that it's unthinkable that Disney would not reopen for the 65th anniversary on July 17th. Guess what happened? They moved it and they said, well, because California wouldn't give us a proper guideline, we can't open up. No, they know what's going on. They're scapegoating and they know how bad it is. And what's even worse, Governor DeSantis in Florida is not pressuring Disney World, but things are going horribly right now. A Disney World opening next month? Ooh, that is a disaster. It always was going to be a disaster. And they need to move that date. Disney World should not be opening up right now.
I'm saying this. If Disneyland is going to be if you really want a Disney experience, Disneyland is going to be there way before Disney World, I think.
Disney, really?
Yes.
Even though it looks right now that Disney World's going to open first.
The difference being Florida did not take this as seriously as California did. California, it's bad, but it's not as bad, I believe, currently, if you take out our little community. Again,
the news media not doing a good enough job because California happens to be alongside Arizona and Texas and Florida with being hotspots for more spikes of COVID-19 cases. There is this tendency to conflate. California was not one of the states to reopen first. They were one of the last ones to start reopening, and they were doing it carefully, unlike Arizona, Texas, and Florida that are governed by Republicans, I might add again, that were the first to reopen.
And a lot of them were, and again, we talked about this here, where we're like, it just seems like people were just like, I'm over this pandemic. It's time, guys. We tried it out. It just didn't work out, So it's time to go our separate ways. We're going to reopen.
Every man for himself.
And it's like, you dumb motherfuckers. The numbers are still going up. Why the fuck are you reopening? And it was all just because, again, just this place over here in this part of the country opened up. So then it started a domino effect of it's like, oh, well, they're opening up, then I want to open up. They're opening up, I want to open up too. And I remember, I'm like, am I taking crazy pills, or are we still not in the middle of a fucking pandemic?
Right. Everyone was acting like, okay, we've reached the end of it. Let's start getting back to it. We're not even anywhere close to the middle of it.
We like, and I would see shit like that. It's like so many headlines, you know, slowly the country's starting to open up and da 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 da. But then I'd look at the numbers and it's like, oh, higher and higher and higher and higher and higher. And it's not, there wasn't even a downward trend. And it's like, wait, why are we doing this? We're not even trending downwards. And then, of course, this is what happens. I mean, that the graph has been shared everywhere over social media, where every other major country is, you know, what was the big word at the beginning of this? Flatten the curve.
Right, flatten the curve.
They have flattened that curve. All of them have done it. They've flattened the curve. And we turned, as the meme says, turned that shit into a half pipe. It it's shooting straight into the sky right now. We didn't do shit to flatten anything. It's worse than it's ever been. I just want to let everyone know I don't decide the discussions we make. It's Alexis who decides to have every podcast be a funeral.
I don't think every podcast is a funeral. Sometimes we have some, cheery, but maybe today was darker than normal. But, and again, to be fair, this was the darkest week in a long time. No, I mean, look, we have to, people, I would hope understand that we were primarily a podcast about movies, reviewing them, and the movie industry. And we still are on a weekly basis, but COVID-19 is a moment in time, and every day the case is being proven. I feel that it's important, I think, for us to just recount and to let these feelings out. As you say yourself, Peter, this podcast operates as a therapeutic experience for all of us. And I know that Alexis Moreno has enjoyed these last few weeks because she's been given an outlet to just kind of let it out, because it's a lot. So yeah, it is a funeral, but I mean, I think what is sad, and it shouldn't be that way, and this is in no way to give us any credit because we're not geniuses. We just watch the news, we pay attention, and I think we have common sense, which quite frankly isn't all that common, it seems. But it's sad that our little group here, weeks ago,
fucking little bitch Alexis finally cut off when he was talking. Oh, hey, what's up? How does that medicine taste, bitch?
It's just so sad how our little group, weeks, maybe if not months, before people in power and government structures realized what we realized back then. Like, it's sad that we live in that world that we seem smarter than the government, but we're not. I mean, well, maybe the government,
No.
but we're not smart in general.
I think everyone is smarter than Trump specifically.
I mean, big ocean water.
Yeah. No, like I genuinely think you could pick a random person off the street and they would do the job better than Trump. But I mean, no, we're not smart. It's just like, hey, and like I understand, and I think a lot of people that do this are smart too. Like, I don't think they're dumb. I just think it comes down to losing money bad. Like, we got to keep the businesses open. We got to, power is a very difficult thing to keep. So once you have it, you try and please the people to keep it. You follow along party lines. That means that if one side picks a narrative, then the other side has to be against it. Conservatives in this country, geniuses, decided to become anti-mask. Like, all because the left, I guess, was pro-mask. But I guess it's more of because they see scientists and educated people as the left. Which, again, real fucking dangerous when you're just like, oh, smart people, I don't fucking trust them. Like, I'm not smart, but if every doctor in the world says, like, here, take this, it'll help cure you, I'm fucking taking it. Like, learn to trust people that might be smarter than you, or are definitely smarter than you.
I was even saying this in circles up.
Real quick, just to cut you off, right when you're speaking, because I'd love to. My sixth sense went off about this virus immediately, right when it first came to light. And we talked about this, Alexis.
Yeah.
You remember, I was very much like, I have a bad feeling about this.
No, we have it on tape. On the table. Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I don't know why this feels different, but I just have a real bad feeling about this.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to tell you guys. I have a sixth sense.
Is that what you're saying?
Connection.
Is that it?
Yeah.
Okay.
I have a connection to the third dimension somehow.
This is what happens when you have a war on intellectualism. And I said this openly in circles in DC, to where I legit asked, why are the media as a whole so afraid? I mean, I know why, but I just wanted to get an answer out of them to see how they would answer. Why can't we call people for being stupid and dumb? Like, I mean, when I pointed this out, when 66% of Republicans hate Muslims, I mean, that's abhorrent. Say it. No. Crickets. I don't even know what the answer was. I think it was like, well, we have to be careful. Whatever the answer was.
I mean, the biggest mistake that the news media ever made was making climate change a topic of debate. They made literal facts a topic of debate, in which they would bring on like a world-renowned fucking scientist that knew every detail about the subject, and they'd bring on, like, I don't know, the senator from Kentucky, and then like, okay guys, go argue. And it's like, are you fucking kidding me? If it's fact, it's fact. If there's a major scientific consensus that something is happening, what is there to debate? In this idea that reality was up for grabs is one of the worst things that the news media has ever done. And it's deteriorated to this point where it's like, oh, most scientists are saying you should wear a mask. I disagree. And it's like, I don't care, bitch. Like, this isn't a discussion. It's not a debate. All right. Go. You go.
Well, speaking of the news media being culpable, and just being wrong and making mistakes in general, I think that's a wonderful, wonderful segue into the topic or the movie review that we have this week, and that is Bernie Blackout. The revolution will not be televised. How the corporate media hurt Sanders' campaign in 2020. We had announced this last week. I had Peter watch it. We've got a lot of notes. Wrote a lot of stuff down in terms of particularly quotes from a lot of anchors and reporters, and how this campaign was treated. Full disclosure, Peter and I had a very polarized point of view on this issue before watching this, and we still do. This documentary film, by its
How
nature,
did you know that?
has a polarized point of view.
Maybe I changed my mind.
There's that. Yeah. So this was an hour and a half documentary feature. It was featured as part of a Vice News. I mentioned this before in the podcast. So where do you want to start with this, Mr. Martinez?
Start where all good things start. Letterboxd. Bernie Blackout, directed by Pat McGee. An investigative deep dive into the corporate news media's coverage of Bernie Sanders' 2020 presidential campaign that asks, who actually gets a say in American politics? Pulls back the curtain to expose the corruption and bias that's rampant in mainstream media's coverage of presidential elections, and takes a hard look at a new generation and their relationship with news and politics. Before I say my thoughts on this documentary, I'd very much like to hear yours, Mr.
That sounds like sabotage.
Alexis B. Soto.
It's weird to see a documentary on something you lived through. That is the first thing I have to say, because I think we may have had a similar comment on Fahrenheit 11/9, the Michael Moore documentary movie. To the Table, by the way, go listen to that. But this is really recent though. Like this literally just happened of January, February, and March of this year, which honestly feels like a year ago at this point because of how 2020 has turned out. But it's strange to kind of relive that. Also painful to relive that because it ended rather miserably. So yeah, it had that weird feeling along. I think it was a rather straightforward documentary. It made its intentions pretty clear about what it was trying to paint when it says in the beginning, and the disgust of the mainstream media in regards to Bernie Sanders. I'll tell you, this is one of those ones where it's kind of hard for me to necessarily judge the quality of this because I happen to agree with every assertion. What?
I was saying you're too close. You're too close to the subject material.
Well, it's like, I happen to agree with every assertion made in the documentary. So from a standpoint, I agree with all the points. Does that translate to a well-made documentary? Not always, not necessarily. Right. But it's not anywhere near the best documentary I've ever seen. But I would say it does a good job of documenting the bias and the hostility towards the Sanders campaign and how it could have made, and I feel made, an impact on the election. So I would say it's good. I can't necessarily find a flaw on the surface in terms of how it was produced, in terms of what it chose to cover, and how it was shot. So to
quote George Lucas's backhanded compliment to The Last Jedi, it was beautifully made. I did it. I got my Last Jedi references.
Oh my god. And because let me just add, because I was so close to it, of course it had, I think, a little bit of an advantage in terms of getting me to feel something out of it, because it basically just recapped what I had lived through, and it made me very angry. So just to be clear about that. But yeah, I thought it was well made.
Resident hostess with the mostest loves to revel in his anger. It's one of his top 3 favorite things.
Mm-hmm.
I was disappointed. Very much so. And I'll tell you why. After this commercial break.
And we're back.
Oh, hey guys, we're back. Okay. I'm glad you enjoyed those ads from our sponsors.
Those pharmaceutical ads.
Yeah. We exclusively sell life insurance and army ads. It felt very much like a puff piece. Too much like a puff piece. And what I mean like that, like, it's obviously glowing praise for the man himself, Mr. Bernard Sanders, of which I agree he is, in fact, the man. But it felt like too many of the interviews were just kind of Bernie Sanders fanboys and fangirls.
Mm-hmm.
Talking about how, like, this sucks, this is unfair, he's the greatest, what the fuck. It was a lot of that. And again, I agree hard. I got I got the merch. I'm a real fan, okay? I got that 2016 Bernie shirt. I got that 2020 two Bernie shirts. Got several bumper stickers. I got his book. Where We Go Next, fucking Revolution. Like, I'm about that life. I'm just laying it all on the line right there.
Mm-hmm.
And this bias within the media is something that I personally perceive to be there. I feel as it is there. But I would have really, really appreciated if, one, they delve more into specific incidences that break down how it is a systemic issue within news media, and then, throw at me some hard numbers. Yeah. Of like, this was how many times Bernie Sanders was named within, the week in which he was, I think I don't know how accurate it was, but I think I saw something like Bernie's win in Nevada was like 3 times more negative than, previous or something like that. Just I needed more evidence. Like, with this documentary, it was too short,
though. I mean, it is an hour and a half.
Hour and a half. That's movie length. I'm not. I've gotten more information in 20-minute videos. Mm-hmm. I guess I wanted something that I could share with people and be like, look at this. Right. This shit breaks it down really well. Whereas with this, unless you're not already like a hardcore supporter, you're not. I don't think this is gonna convince anyone. I really don't. I really think this is just like, hey, Bernie supporters, we're not crazy. And then also it didn't help that, like, yeah, I lived every fucking day of that shit. I really did. Like, when they got to the Bernie Bro shit, I'm like, I don't want to watch this. God damn it. Because that Bernie Bro narrative really... Right, but that was a good example of shit where it's like, hey, like, they measured, like, of tweets. I don't know if it was specifically Bernie's tweets or tweet responses of fans or... I don't know how they broke it down. Forgive me, because I have forgotten. But it was like, yes, 2% of Bernie Sanders, shit was negative, but that's about the same as literally every single other candidate. And and the fact that they were trying to amplify that, and then they bring up Karl Rove, because Karl Rove, he was a fucking political animal in his time, and talking about how it's like you go after the strengths of the individual, and the strengths is, Bernie Sanders, rabid fan base movement. He's talking about wanting a revolution. How do you defeat him? Make those people within the revolution look like animal bastard cases. and this is something, again, I saw it within my eyes, being on the internet, seeing the way people interact. And it's like, yeah, I agree. Bernie Sanders people can say and do, avid hardcore supporters can say and do dumb shit. But I never saw it to a level that was like higher than any other candidate. And the fact that they could bring out the numbers and be like, yeah, like, you're not crazy. Like, this whole Bernie bro narrative isn't real. That's a good one. That's the one where I can, maybe talk to your crazy aunt where it's like, man, I really would have liked Bernie Sanders, but those evil Bernie bros, I watched The View and they were telling me how Bernie bros are these, crazy, rabid, misogynist. Like, they talk about Bernie bros the same way conservatives talk about Antifa. Like,
yeah,
fucking crazy. And you can tell you have no understanding of what it is you're talking about. And I want to be able to point that and be like, hey, look at, like, this idea that Bernie supporters are any worse than anyone else's supporters is just not bore out in the data. I wanted more of that. And there are other examples where they delve into it. And I think a good documentary pulls you in with its human story and then hits you over the head with the numbers and the evidence to go like, this shit's real. And they had some of that. I needed a lot more. But that, that's I felt having watched it.
Yeah, and also, I mean, Twitter did maybe a better job in terms of like, because if you look at Twitter at the day to day, there was a lot more specific situations like those, on the day to day of the campaign trail.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, there are instances where it's like, for one though, like I 100% agree. This whole idea of U.S., and I wish they would have delved into that a lot more. U.S. media is beholden to its shareholders and its owners, and it's about making money, right? And when they said, like, there used to be 50 odd some companies that owned media outlets, and now it's down to, I don't know, what was it, 2, 3, 4? And when they had Crystal Ball, and she talked about how she had criticized Hillary Clinton, and then they basically came down on her and said, like, hey, any criticism of her is gonna have to go through us. That kind of shit, like that kind of crazy shit. I know they didn't have him in this, but I know Cenk Uygur, he used to be on MSNBC, and they're just like, hey, you criticize Democrats too much, like, and that in and of itself is bad, because that's MSNBC's bottom line. We're there to hold up the Democratic establishment. You didn't do that. Bye. What's his name? He unfortunately passed away. They
Ed
had recording. Ed Schultz talks about how literally no one else was covering Bernie's announcement. He was going to be the only person in all the major networks to cover it. They called and said, I don't give a fuck what? You're not covering Bernie's announcement for presidency.
Bernie, in that documentary, they pulled a clip from 2016 where there was a study, then he was quoting the study, that from January 2015 to November 2015, the ABC evening news program covered the campaign for 20 seconds.
Yeah. And at that same time, they covered every word that left Trump's lips.
Amy Goodman, who was doing that interview, says in that exchange, they showed more of the open podium waiting for Donald Trump than ever playing your speeches, Bernie speeches.
Yeah. And there is some effective shit in there, like that.
Mm-hmm.
I wish they just, because I know there's more.
Yeah.
It just feels like they just kind of dropped it, and then a lot of it, and then a much larger portion was just fawning over him, and then people just saying like,
yeah,
he's great.
If anything, it felt like a very condensed version of it. And it also felt like parts of it were trying to do like a catch-all effect with at some parts of it. I think in the beginning they were I think maybe unnecessarily spending too much time on Bernie's biography.
Yeah, and too much of like the day-to-day and his like the campaign. Like
that
it
was
almost
the weakest. That was the weakest for me, and I'll say it from a personal point of view. It was also the hardest to watch because it went nowhere. They lost, so don't do that. Don't do that. Don't fucking play with my emotions like that. We all know how this ended. This is not like a documentary about the day-to-day. Talk about the corporate media. And you can do that in the day-to-day because it happened every single fucking day. And even and by the way, they had a great compilation of clips for how the media was savage to Bernie Sanders. But there were a lot more than that.
I just think it just could have been so much better, because they rightfully drop a couple times where it's like, they said he wasn't electable. What does that even mean? You know? And it's like, yeah, I agree. This whole idea, like bullshit term of electability, what really happens is the media themselves decides what electable is, and then they will tell their audience of mostly, you know, Gen X and Boomer viewers, because that's who's watching, but that's also the people that vote, and tell them who is electable. They tell them who is electable. And then guess what? These people make their decisions based off who they think is electable. But they only think they're electable because the media told them they're electable. And it's like this sort of cycle. And one of the biggest examples of this, I wish they would have pointed out, was in 2016. I just remember constantly hearing like, oh yeah, Bernie, I guess. But one of the most annoying parts of the 2016 election was just constantly hearing them say like, oh yeah, Bernie, yeah, okay, whatever, I guess. But I mean, at the end of the day, he's not electable. Hillary Clinton, man, she's electable. I want to rip your face off.
It's not cooperating today. Hello?
Yes?
It's just not cooperating today, is it? This is the worst it's ever been.
Motherfucker. They would constantly talk about how Hillary Clinton was electable. She's electable. She's the electable candidate. Bernie Sanders isn't. But at the same time they would do this, if you would look at the polling, Bernie was either, beating Trump at the same level at which Hillary Clinton was by as wide margins, or even wider. There, at his height, at Bernie's height during the 2016 campaign, he was, I believe, most polls showed him beating Donald Trump by larger margins than Hillary Clinton.
Yeah.
But at this same time, they were saying that like, oh, well, he's not electable. He's not electable. But even then, even if he was, lower margins than Hillary Clinton, he was still beating Donald Trump. He would still be beating Donald Trump.
Yeah.
De facto, that would still be electable. But no, it actually showed the opposite. He was winning by larger margins, but you still saw the entire media make this argument that she was electable and he wasn't. And I think there's so many specific situations like that I wish they would just highlight it and just really spent time on shoving it down the viewer's face. for lack of a better term.
That's what I would do.
Yeah,
that's how I would do it anyway. Yeah.
Cut out the fluff. Like I love Bernie too. I get it, but if this shouldn't have been for Bernie supporters. This should have been for the people that either have no fucking clue what's going on, maybe even the people that were like, nah, you're full of baloney. This shit ain't happening. That you could really use as an educational tool to people that aren't on board and be like, hey, no, like we have a serious problem within the media. And it's not specifically because the bias against Bernie was because, Bernie is the greatest ever. And, the lamestream media just doesn't like awesome people like Bernie. It has everything to do with, their corporate interests and the fact that Bernie and what he was pushing for did not meet them. They actively hurt those interests. Excuse me.
Do you think it does a good job of at least, in terms of the compilation of clips from media anchors and what have you, do you think that the film does a good enough job of portraying the existence of the distaste and the hostility a lot of these anchors have toward Bernie?
They do. But, and this is the issue, this is the but, because the documentary came off as such a love letter to Bernie, it seems more like, scorned lover than actively portraying, the bias as it is. And I think that's why it's important to come at this from at least a perceived neutral level. At the end of the day, obviously you have an agenda. Like it's obvious, right? Mm-hmm. That's why you're making the fucking documentary. But you shouldn't get there until your conclusion, by the end of the documentary, where you make it clear, like, yeah, this is an issue. They should have started off, like if I'm thinking if I was making this documentary, you probably start off kind of like showing the worst of what the media has said about Bernie and kind of going like, damn, like, is this true? Like, what's going on here?
Well, I just feel like I'm going to read these quotes, and we're going to be wrapping it up pretty soon because at the rate this is going, I'm getting infuriated. And
you're getting infuriated, okay.
But I just, I wrote this shit down, so I'm going to say it. And these were a lot of the quotes that were taken from news anchors and in regards to Bernie Sanders, okay? So sit tight. And I'm saying this for like documentary, probably won't watch it, so I'll just go ahead and give it to you anyway. So here we go. Here we go. Chuck Todd, MSNBC. No other candidate has anything like this digital brown shirt brigade. Roca, MSNBC. Bernie Sanders makes my skin crawl. Whoopi Goldberg from ABC. Can you explain why you're still in the race? The reporter from CBS. He's nowhere near that level of support. Joy Behar, ABC. Don't get your hopes up on Bernie yet. Chris Matthews on MSNBC. Bernie, you're full of it. Meghan McCain on ABC. The abuse that we have all been subjected to by Bernie bros. Katie Tur, MSNBC. There is real concern right now that Bernie Sanders is so far in the lead. Joy Reid, MSNBC. Democrats need to sober up and figure out what the hell they're going to do about that. This is Brian Williams, MSNBC, in regards to two articles. Some are sounding the alarm. Vanity Fair headline reads, running Bernie Sanders against Trump would be an act of insanity. To The Atlantic, Bernie can't win. Oh my God. Jennifer Rubin from the Washington Post. And he looked like the angry man in the middle, in the center of the stage saying, get off my lawn. Susan Del Percio, MSNBC. I think he comes off as mean. I think he's disparaging. Chris Matthews on MSNBC. You're going to be a miserable president. Anderson Cooper on CNN. How can any kind of socialist win a general election in the United States? Someone from MSNBC, Liza Traeger. I think you're disheveled, you're unlikable, and you're pushy. James Carville, MSNBC. After Bernie won Nevada. This thing is going very well for Vladimir Putin. Another reporter from CBS at a debate. Can Americans trust that a democratic socialist president will not give authoritarians a free pass? How'd that make you feel?
I lived it.
I know it's not the best, and I know it could be a lot better, but there's nothing else I have to point to show people what happened or how I feel. This is the closest to what I have. And that's why I wanted to talk about it, because it feels like I'm just alone screaming into the void. And as much as happy as I am that Trump is going to go down, I'm never going to forget what happened with the situation. I'm not going to forgive. And yeah. And I mean, if there's a point to all of this, is that the corporate media is culpable and responsible and should not be trusted because they play games like this.
I would say that should not be trusted can be strong. I just don't want to endue the same type of, you don't want to endue the same level of immediate knee-jerk anti-intellectualism that is pervaded Trump's America, specifically his supporters. I think highly skeptical is where we should be when it comes to the news media. But yeah, I just don't want people going like, well, the news said it, that's not true. And it's like, bitch.
I would hope that my comments speak for themselves and my history would speak for itself. And those that heard what I was saying would clearly understand that's not what I was saying.
Mm-hmm. It's the internet. It doesn't matter if in your head you think that works. You got to make it black and white.
I was not calling them fake news in the same way that Trump was. When Trump says fake news, it's because he doesn't like the headlines. I don't call them fake news. I say to be highly skeptical of it. I don't trust any of them personally because I know what they think like. But in general, their coverage, when it comes to, and I should be probably clear in this regard, when it comes to covering progressives and when it comes to their political apparatus, their coverage is deeply flawed and has a tendency to corrupt the view which Americans perceive the race itself to be. In general, I feel that the press and the media does a very poor job of covering the issues that plague America today because of wanting to appear neutral. That's my opinion, and that's what I was saying. And I was trying to say to be skeptical of what they say in regards through that lens. Of course, I clearly wasn't suggesting that when they tell you wear a mask, to yell at them fake news. Thank you all for listening. Catch us by next time. Bye-bye.